Hi buddies, hope you're doing fine. In this series, we are going to talk about the important questions from the American literature. If you are ready, let's get started. 601 onwards. Which of O'Neill's plays expresses Freudian insight into the subconscious? Strange Interlude and The Great God Brown. Which of O'Neill plays based on expressionistic oniric fantasy and tormented abstractions? The Hairy Ape and Dynamo. Which of O'Neill plays in Rejection of Wealth of False Happiness? A Moon for the Misbegotten and A Touch of the Poet. In which novel Neil expresses Catholic attitude? Days Without End. The Dear Doctor was written by O'Neill. The Web was written by O'Neill. Till We Meet was written by O'Neill. Before Breakfast was written by O'Neill. O'Neill is a pessimistic and metaphysical. Who was Theodore Parker? He was one of the preachers of the Transcendentalist. What novel Parker published in the year 1841? A discourse on the transient and permanent in Christianity. What was Parker's specialty? He was a powerful advocate of abolitionism. Pound is one of the most significant figures in American world. Pound became one of the pioneers of imagism. Pound was a biographer. Pound was a pamphleteer. Pound was a critic who was a writer on miscellaneous themes such as economist and civilization. Pound, who drastically reduced the length of the wasteland. Pound, who was one of the pioneers of the modern poetry in particular. Pound, Poe is one of the important figures of America. The Black Cat was written by Edgar Allan Poe. The City in the Sea was written by Edgar Allan Poe, who has a lot of poetic, fictional, and critical work. Edgar Allan Poe. Where was Rand born? Russia. When did Ayn Rand come to the USA? 1926. What was Ayn Rand's first novel, We the Living? What was the specialty of Rand's first novel, depicting the devastating effect of the Russian? Which one is Rand's autobiographical work, The Fountainhead? What the Fountainhead said about delineating the life of an architect? Who is the author of the Brook Farm Association? George Ripley. John Grow Ransom is a well-known poet, essayist, and critic. The World's Body was written by Ransom, which is the Ransom's collection essays, Beating the Bushes. Kurt Sandburg is the famous American poet of the 20th century. Carl Sandburg became associated with the Social Democratic Party. Who is the lover of democracy? Carl Sandburg. What was Carl Sandburg's main concept? Practical aspects rather than imaginative aspects. Chicago was written by Carl Sandburg. Who is the author of 6 volumes of biography of Abraham Lincoln? Carl Sandburg. Which is Sandburg poem written in free verse colloquial style? The People, Yes. Simus was a famous novelist who depicted the life based on southern legend. Simus' novel Martin Faber was published in the year 1833. Simus' novel The Partisan was published in the year 1835. Simus' novel Wardcraft was published in the year 1852. What is the Harriet Beecher Stowe's world famous novel? Uncle Tom's Cabin. When was Uncle Tom's Cabin published? 1852. Uncle Tom's Cabin was what kind of novel? Anti-slavery novel. Who impressed by Uncle Tom's Cabin? Abraham Lincoln. Transport of Summer was written by Wallace Stevens. Who is the author of Ideas of Order? Wallace Stevens. Who is the author of Transport of Summer? Wallace Stevens. Name the Stevens collection of 7 essays. The Necessary Angel. What contained on those 7 essays? Reality and Imagination. The Emperor of Ice Cream was written by Wallace Stevens. Who is the author of Sunday Morning? Wallace Stevens. Steinbeck won Nobel Prize for his fiction work. Steinbeck Cup of Gold was published in the year 1929. Which novel depicting the story of a buccaneer? Cup of Gold. Cup of Gold was a romantic novel. What is the story of the novel To a God Unknown? A story of a farmer who commits suicide on the failure of the rain god. Which one is Steinbeck's first famous novel? Tortilla Flat. Tortilla Flat is a humorous novel. Which novel said about the life of homeless pickers in W.S. Battle? Which novel said about the tragic life of homeless farmhands? Of Mice and Men. Steinbeck won the Pulitzer Prize and Nobel Prize for his novel The Grapes of Worth. The Grapes of World is the greatest novel on refugees in the world. When did East of Eden published? 1952. Who was a pre-Whitman poet? Edward Taylor. Edward Taylor wrote in a metaphysical style. Who used conceits, rich and complete imagery and figure of speech? Edward Taylor. Who offered the practical side of transcendentalism? Thoreau. Who is the cover of nature? Thoreau. Who is leading a simple life? Thoreau. Who can be described a one-man revolution against all social evils? Thoreau. Who called Thoreau as transcendental individuality? Madison. Thoreau's on civil disobedience influenced Tolstoy and Gandhi. What is the speciality of on civil disobedience? Thoreau proclaimed the supremacy of human conscience. Who is the modern American novelist, critic, essayist? Trilling Lionel. The Liberal Imagination was written by Trilling Lionel. The Opposing Self was written by Trilling Lionel. Trilling Lionel's well-known novel is The Middle of the Journey. What is the real name of Mark Twain? Samuel Langdon Clemens. Who got much opportunity to observe the busy, romantic and violent life of the America? Mark Twain. Who worked as a journeyman printer? Mark Twain. As a steamboat and pilot on the bank of the Amazon River was written by Mark Twain. When did Mark Twain's Adventures of Tom Sawyer publish? 1875. When did Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn publish? 1883. Who is the author of The Mysterious Stranger? Mark Twain. What was another name? The work The Innocents Abroad, The New Pilgrim Progress. Which of his work appeared posthumously? The Mysterious Stranger. Who is known for his soft and delicate humor? Mark Twain. Whose later appeared work is Letters from Earth? Mark Twain. Hannibal, Huck and Tom is the collection of tales. Michael Wigglesworth belongs to pre-Whitman period. Michael Wigglesworth's famous work is Day of Doom, which is an example of Puritan poetry preferring religion to aesthetic sense. Day of Doom. Which work was intended to preach the doctrine of Calvinism? Day of Doom. Who was the first powerful true American writer? Walt Whitman. That's all about this video. If you need more like this, do comment. Thank you so much for watching this video till end. If you're having any suggestion, let me know in the comment section. We'll see you next video. Tada, bye bye.